Homies. Yeah, we're good. We're rolling, brother.
All right, so my name is Lou Caticcio, and I am a spider biologist, spider researcher at the University of South Florida in St. Petersburg. And right now we are in this little spider room that I have here where I keep all of the spiders that we use to do our experiments. Right now you're looking at the brown widows.
Yeah.
Down below are the recluse spiders.
So cool.
And below that are some black widows.
Wow, it's neat.
Yeah. We have lots of spiders in here, and some of these have egg sacs that have just hatched with hundreds of spiders in them.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to really know how many spiders we had in here, we probably have close to 1,000 spiders.
Wow. Just in that.
Yeah.
How cool. Look at those cool little guys.
Right. I'll actually do a little talk about those in a minute because they do have to do with the study.
Great. Yeah, I'd love to hear about the brown recluse study that's getting ready to be published, you said, right?
Oh, the widow studies.
Yeah.
So,
there was the widow studies, huh?
So to go over the study, we have brown widows, we have black widows. A lot of people think they're the same spider. They're not the same spider. Brown widows are the cousin of the black widow. So the brown widows were introduced here, about 100 or so years ago. They've been here for a while, and they've spread themselves across the United States pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So in California and Texas and a few other states, they've been labeled invasive. And the reason in California they were labeled invasive is because they were pushing out the black widow from their niche, from their territory.
Their native habitat.
So anytime you have an animal moving into a territory and it's causing an ill effect on a native animal, it's now become invasive. So they're not labeled invasive here in Florida. So I decided to do a study to find out, one, why they're doing this or how they're doing this to black widows, and is this happening in Florida, so hopefully we can change the way that they're viewed towards the local ecology. So I broke the study down into 3 parts. I did growth and development as the first part. Second part was behavioral, and now I'm currently in the middle of the third part, which is ecological. So the first part, we did growth and development. I compared the brown widows up here to the black widows down here to see if there was any difference in the rate of growth, how much they grew, because each time an arthropod or something with a shell, crabs, spiders, insects, every time they grow, they shed their skin. It's called an instar. So I wanted to see if in between each instar, if there was more growth between one spider or another, that would give them an advantage. And I wanted to see if one got bigger faster, which gave them an advantage.
Absolutely.
And in the end, the study found that up until the 6th instar, so this is usually when they're starting to get ready to mature. Males are mature by this point. Females are subadult and getting ready to mature. There was no difference in growth rate. They were exactly the same. But at that 6th, 7th instar time, the brown widows got a little jump. They got a little bit bigger. But then their growth rate was exactly the same. They would still grow the exact amount each time.
Because you were finding, when you would find the brown widows, that you would see a lot less black widows in this place, and that's what drove you to this study.
I totally forgot about that.
All good, bud. But that's what drove you to this study, because you wanted to know what's happening to where these brown widows are basically taking the place of the black widows.
Right.
Do they what advantage do they have? Like, do they start breeding sooner? Do they get bigger faster?
Right.
Is it behavioral?
It's a behavioral,
Awesome.
exactly. So, yeah, I forgot to mention that in the beginning. I should have.
All good.
I was going out collecting black widows for another study, and I noticed that when I would go back to certain places, there would be more brown widows, less black widows, and on one particular property, which will be mentioned in the study that's about to get published, it went from black widows and brown widows to no black widows. And they were basically one
That's a problem.
So the growth and development study showed us a little interesting fact that they get a little growth spurt at the 6th instar, but it didn't really correlate enough to, well, that's why they're taking over. So then I moved on to the behavioral, and I started with adults. And I would put one fully grown adult and another fully grown adult together in a tank and see what would happen. And for the adults, it was exactly 50-50. 50% of the time the brown widow would win, 50% of the time the black widow would win. And what determined the winner usually in that case was who made their webbing first. Because these are cobweb spiders. The web is their life. It's their extension. It's how they feel. It's how they attack. It's how they catch.
So no obvious edge on why the brown species
it wasn't
was winning.
It wasn't
over the black.
It wasn't necessarily a behavioral or an aggressive thing. It was more to do with who kind of claimed their territory, made their web, and that was kind of
very interesting.
So then I moved down to the 6th instar, like right before they get that growth spurt.
Yep.
And about 89% of the time, the brown widow would kill the black widow. And in almost all of those cases, once they sensed the black widow, once they had kind of made a little webbing and sensed that the black widow was in the enclosure, they would go after it. And most of the times, the black widows actually run. They would try to fight back sometimes, but they didn't want anything to do with it. They just wanted to get away. So obviously, if this was in the wild, they could escape. But with so many brown widows, because brown widows also breed at a much higher rate.
Okay.
Black widows will usually have one egg sac, maybe two. It's usually just one, and they protect that one egg sac. Black widows. Brown widows will have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've counted up to 15 egg sacs.
Oh, wow.
For one brown widow in one area. So now if you take that into account, the juvenile black widows could escape the brown widow. They're outnumbered. So eventually, the juveniles are going to take down black widows when they're younger.
And is that a particular behavioral setting? Like they just go into Hulk mode before they hit that instar? It
seems like
that's
when
wild.
they're young. It's all when they're young.
That's
when
wild.
They're hatchlings too. Because when they're hatchlings, you can't sex them. So I can't tell males from females. Males are much weaker venom, smaller fangs, so they're not good test subjects. It's the females that rule the kingdom of the spiders, especially the black widows. So I put hatchlings together in groups of 10 so that the ratio of male to female could hopefully be about the same.
Yeah.
And every time I did it, the brown widows seemed to eat the black widows first before they would eat their own kind, because cannibalism is very high in widow spiders. So the black widows would eat, the brown widows would eat the black widows first, and then eating
turn on their brothers and sisters.
So clearly, from the time that they're born until they're about adult age, until they're adults, they just go for the black widow.
That's interesting.
Probably a direct competition thing. You had mentioned that before we were chatting.
Yeah.
That, but we don't know exactly yet.
Yeah,
we just know
if they're in the direct competition of that food source, because you were talking about how these brown widows would also live in peace with some of their cousins that look like basically a smaller brown widow, and I find that to be interesting because they won't bother that smaller spider,
right?
But so are they looking at the black widow as a direct competition of their food source?
That would be a very good hypothesis.
It's wild
because I go under houses because my other study is recluse spiders, which we'll go over in a second. Looking, and when I go under there and I find brown widows, I will find the red house spiders, Nesticodes ruffites, or rufibes, sorry, and they will live right next to each other, like you said, and they don't seem to have any conflict. And when I did a study with them in the lab, they also didn't seem to have a conflict. As a matter of fact, I think I did 10 trials, and out of the 10 trials, 8 times they kind of just lived in peace. In 2 trials, the red house spider actually killed the brown widow.
Wow.
So it went the other way.
Huh.
So it's definitely, they see the black widow as a direct competition, I would say, and they're eliminating. So now through this study I've shown, which is, we're finishing the final draft right now. We're submitting it for publication hopefully in a week or 2.
That's so
and
cool.
I will publish it on my Florida Brown Recluse Project page. And
yeah,
on my
be sure to
page.
follow that, guys. It's really, really neat.
Yeah, so the page that I have for my other research is called the Florida Brown Recluse Project, which is the next project I guess we could talk about, because that's it for this study. Right now, as I go around Florida looking for recluse spiders, I also am looking for black and brown widows, and where I see them cohabitating, I watch that as well. So at the end of that study, I'll be able to also show what I've seen observationally.
Absolutely.
Is that when the brown widows move in, black widows move out. The last little comment I'll make on that is, it's a little too early to say, but it seems that brown widows do much better in urban environments, where the black widows will survive better in woodland areas. They like to live in like gopher tortoise burrows and stuff like that. So the places where I found black widows to do good, where they're not getting in competition, seems to be preserves and parks, which is why also preserving our nature is extremely important. Maybe people might not think the black widow is an important animal to save, but it's a huge part of our ecosystem.
It is.
And we don't want to lose it, because the brown widows breed at such an enormous rate that if they get on your property, good luck getting rid of them.
Yeah, exactly.
So next you want to move on to the
let's
recluse
rock
study?
it. Yeah, absolutely.
So the brown recluse project is going back. I decided to take on the myth that recluse spiders live in Florida. For a lot of people who think that they are native, they are not native. Recluse spiders are not native to the state. Since I was a little kid, I was taught that they live here. My dad was bit on the hand by something in a bush, and the doctors told him that it was a recluse spider. And I have a lot of information on the Florida Brown Recluse Project page about misdiagnosis of bites and stuff like that that's been happening in places like Canada, where recluse spiders absolutely don't live, and doctors have diagnosed people. So I wanted to tackle this myth head on and see, are there recluse spiders living in Florida, and where are they? So right now I have the list of verified individuals that have been found, because they do hitchhike. Most of the time when recluse spiders come here, it's, if it's the brown recluse, they're coming here with a family that moved here, and they had boxes stored in their attic or in their basement, and these guys have kind of made home there, and then they bring a couple with them. And the most commonly found one now is the Mediterranean. They're usually individuals, and they will come in shipments. So I'm investigating areas where individuals have been found.
Like the cargo ships.
Exactly.
Okay.
So they're very big. They love crawl spaces. They are believed to descend from cave-dwelling spiders.
Oh,
so
that'd
they
be
don't.
Perfect for them.
Yeah, they don't really. There's hypothesis that they have an aversion to grass and bushy areas, and they're not really like an outdoors spider. They have really liked what we've made for them as far as our houses, our crawl spaces, and in temperate areas where they don't get really hot attics and stuff. So anyways, I'm going around the state and I'm searching verified claims, and I'm looking to see if I find any, and I'm also doing behavioral studies. So in here we have a bunch of recluse spiders that I use for some of my experiments. These are all Mediterranean, and these guys are all Mediterranean. This one is a Chilean, which is another one that's been found, but this guy's very rarely found. It's Loxosceles leata, sorry.
That's a hard one to say, huh? That's really cool.
So, what I wanted to show you, if you're interested, is one of the brown recluse that I had just laid 3 egg sacs, and two of them hatched.
No way.
So we have ones that are a little bit bigger, and we have ones that are like brand new, straight out of the
born yesterday, kind of.
Just born like a week ago, yeah.
Wow.
And they're all living in this little enclosure, so I thought it might be pretty cool. For those of you with arachnophobia, I apologize.
I used to have arachnophobia real bad as a kid. You know what I did? I got a pet tarantula, and then as soon as I was in college, joined an entomology class, and I catch more spiders and insects, and before you knew it, I got over my fear of spiders.
I wish more parents would teach their kids to not fear them.
Yeah.
I really think that it's
learned.
It's
learned.
So let's see who we can find, and hopefully you guys can see it. You'll definitely see the mother and her egg sac.
Wow.
So there she is, and there's one egg sac. And there's another, and if you look, I don't know how good your phone can see it, in between the 2 egg sacs is one of the older juveniles.
Yeah, I see it now.
You see that guy in there? And there's the mom. So those are what recluse spiders' egg sacs look like, by the way. And their webbing, they don't make extravagant webbing. Their webbing is very cottony, and it looks like flattened out cotton, and they just kind of lay it down like a bed on the roof and on the wall. And there's another little guy sitting right there, and then you probably won't be able to see the little ones.
It is so cool.
So yeah, so that's your brown recluse right there. She's one. You need to get off me, little buddy.
This guy, it doesn't bother him. I've seen him pictures of big brown recluses and black widows crawling on him.
Well, you know what?
He's like the real Spider-Man, kids. Like, seriously. I mean, look around, kids. This is some Peter Parker stuff going on. I mean, this is exactly how Spider-Man got his powers. Here, working in a research lab of spiders and got bit by the wrong one, right?
Don't get me wrong. I never encourage people to handle medically significant spiders. I crawl under houses looking for them.
It's your job.
It's part of my job.
It's your job.
It's the risk I take.
Yeah.
But please don't
Absolutely.
go handling these guys.
Yeah. I teach
bites
the
are
same
very
thing.
rare.
I had a cool kid sit there and message me, check it out, Captain Planet. I saved a banded water snake,
And it wasn't.
and it was a cottonmouth wrapped around his wrist.
Oh man.
You know, and when I told him, he said, "Oh, I thought cottonmouths were extremely aggressive." And I was like, "Probably
Well,
when they
huge,
sense your energy, thinking that you're scared, but you think it's a water snake. He's probably just chilling like Bob Dylan on penicillin on you."
Right. And I work with reptiles and stuff too. That I had to make a choice at some point in my life, reptiles or spiders, and since spiders are very...
I think you chose well, brother. This is so cool. I've had so much fun learning here today with you. I mean, it's just...
Do you want to learn one more thing?
Oh, I'd like to learn 10 new things.
So, really quick, because I feel like this is very important for those of you who live in Florida.
Very cool.
9 out of 10 times when I go to somebody's house, they think they have recluse spiders living all over their house. And they're not recluse spiders. They are these guys.
And guys, I was just telling him before this video how, I've seen some recluse spiders, one in Port Charlotte and one in Jensen Beach. But now when I saw these guys, I think that's what I saw, because see, he's got that same looking violin little shape to him. Not quite as predominant, but it's definitely there.
So these are southern house spiders. So those are males, and if you look at the black one right here to the right, that is the female. So the females look nothing like the males, and these guys are actually, they're trying to entice her. But if you look at the front of the face, you will notice they have two large appendages.
See, those guys looks like little legs coming out of their mouth.
Those are the pedipalps. Those are the male's reproductive organs. Now, that's the biggest and easiest way to differentiate a southern house spider from a recluse spider is those very long appendages. Recluse spiders do not have those.
Perfect. That's
So-
a great way to know.
Again, these guys, 9 times out of 10 when I get called to a house and people are like, they're all over my property,
because
it's
I mean,
these guys.
I didn't know that. I mean, and I'm a biologist, not a spider biologist like you, but I was sitting there like, I've seen some brown recluses, and and I think that's exactly what I was seeing, because they do have that little violin looking shape on them.
And
it's not as predominant, but it is there,
And that's another thing that if you go to the Florida Brown Recluse Project page, I have tons of research on identification. I've made tons of posts on identifying them, tons of posts on misdiagnosis of bites with tons of research that goes behind it. Just research article after research article. But another thing I like to try to teach people is that violin mark is not a very good way to decipher them. We have the desert recluse, because we have more than one species of recluse spider. We have the desert recluse that you can't see the violin mark. It's so light, it's not noticeable.
Interesting.
Then we have the Chilean, which is
just as venomous, huh?
And they have the same venom.
Yeah.
Then you have the Chilean recluse, which has a very light patterned violin mark. This guy right here. And they also have a very indistinguishable violin mark. The brown recluse seems that it has the darkest of all of them.
Yeah.
And then the Mediterranean is kind of in between. Sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't. Depends how old they are.
And that's what we have the most here in Florida.
And that's what have been found
finding.
the most here, and that's because they're coming here in shipments, and they're coming here as hitchhikers. So they're not widespread through Florida. They're not throughout the state. If you go to the page, you'll see I have a list of where they've been found. They've mostly been found in areas like Tampa and Orlando because of all the shipments.
Well, like
and
when I lived in Jensen Beach, there was those agama lizards everywhere.
Yeah, and
they had the orange.
Are still everywhere.
But over here, you'll never see one. You know, like when you drive 15 minutes outside that town, you never see one.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're in that town, there was more of them than there was Cuban anoles. So,
exactly.
it's learning how a species can can distribute itself across.
Right. And final point I'll make is that recluse spiders have a very low dispersal rate. There's a study also on that page that showed that like 92% of their life, they stay within a few feet of where they make their home.
Mm-hmm.
They are sit and wait predators. And then when they hatch out, they don't disperse out far from where their egg sac is. They're not like most other spiders like that can balloon away or that travel far. They stay.
They chill.
They chill in that area. So most of the time, if they're going from one place to another, it's through human intervention.
Yeah.
They're literally
They're not
brought.
trying to find a new basement. They're just they're content
They're
right there.
Good. Exactly. So
I get it.
That is why their dispersal rate is so slow, because it's usually through human means. That even though there have been a few Mediterranean recluse found, and they're not gonna all of a sudden just take over Florida. So you know, people also don't need to worry about
That's
that.
very cool. You know, one thing I learned that was really awesome too, Spider-Man, that I want to end it with these kids is, you know, even as a biologist, I was telling Spider-Man, you know, like I took entomology, which is a study of insects, got into it, but we didn't cover spiders because the spider's not technically an insect, you know, as far as it's an arachnid. That being said, though, I didn't realize that 99% of spiders are venomous, but not in a scary way. Like, we know brown recluses and black widows to be venomous because they're so venomous that if they bite us, it hurts.
Right, and they're called medically significant.
Medically significant. And I didn't realize that, you know, that even, you know, if anything from a wolf spider to just about everything, you know, spider goes, that it's venomous to its food. It's venomous to its prey.
Right.
You know, but we don't consider it being venomous because we don't have a reaction if we were to get bit from it. So that's a cool way
most spiders that you're going to encounter in Florida, with the exception of the black widow, if they bite you, it's, you know, unless you're allergic, it's going to be just fine. An ant sting or
so
worse,
knowing that most all spiders are venomous isn't something to be scary. It's something to be cool.
Right.
You know, like it makes them kind of special because not all snakes are venomous. You know, like as far as 99% of snakes aren't venomous.
Right. Exactly.
You know, you kind of, there's a huge difference between the venomous snake and the non-venomous snake. You know, where, you know, spiders, there's only a few species in the world that aren't. You know, and I just think that's really cool. I didn't know that.
Arachnophobia is a very a common thing, and people should have no reason to fear them. They're not out to get you. They only usually bite as a reaction to pressure, like if you squeeze it or pressure.
Yeah, and they're really good friends to have around, aren't they?
They're actually the best pest control you can have.
Black widow, guys.
So that's the brown.
Oh, that's the brown, isn't it?
Yeah. It looks like a black widow because it's such a dark face.
Exactly.
And here, if you want, I will show you.
It is very dark.
A black widow, right here.
In comparison.
Now, the way that you can tell when they're fully grown is right here, near the spinnerets. Not the hourglass.
Yeah.
Near the spinnerets, there's a red dot.
Okay, so you've got the hourglass and the red dot.
On the
and the browns, would it just be the hourglass then?
It's just the hourglass. Their hourglass tends to be a little more orange. There's some things that go into it, but they're very hard to differentiate. And they also have banded legs, most of them. When they're adults, the brown widows, where the black widows, when they're fully grown, and they will not have banded legs anymore. And they will be, black widows will also be a very shiny black. And, you know, they look like they've been painted with a very nice, like, car paint. Where these guys have a little bit more of a dull, matted look.
I get it now. Very cool. I'm so glad we got a good visual on that, because I just learned some new things too. I don't usually make 25-minute long videos, but this is incredible stuff. And I know the kids' mouths are just dropped right now, like, what?
The egg sacs are the last thing. I'll teach you this.
It's like, of course Captain Planet's got a Spider-Man friend.
Brown widows have the spiky egg sacs.
Oh,
where they look like little spike balls.
Yeah.
Where I don't have any egg sacs of the black widows right now. They're round.
They're round.
They're either teardrop shaped or round, but they don't have any spikes.
Don't have those spikes. Right. Okay, so that's another way.
And
very cool. Thank you, Spider-Man. You're awesome.
Absolutely. glad you.
Yeah. Oh, this is amazing.
Came in here and let me give you a little.
So cool.
Half-hour tour.
Right. Love it.